You won't believe what happened when my vintage Porsche disappeared right from under my nose. And all because of a HOA Karen who thought she could get away with stealing it. It started as a normal day until I realized my prized car was missing from the garage. At first, I thought maybe I misplaced the keys or someone borrowed it without telling me. But then the truth hit me hard. Someone took it. Someone I never expected. Someone from the very homeowners association I trusted to protect our neighborhood. This wasn't just any HOA dispute. This was personal. The woman in charge, the so-called HOA Karen, had a history of pushing her weight around, throwing her weight like she owned the place. But stealing a car, that was a whole new level. I knew I had to act fast, but what I didn't know was that my next move would set off a chain of events involving the FBI, secret investigations, and a trap so cleverly laid it caught her red-handed. The whole community was stunned. How could a HOA official go from enforcing petty rules to pulling off a high-stakes theft? And what was she trying to hide? My vintage Porsche wasn't just a car. It was a symbol of years of hard work, memories, and pride. Losing it felt like losing a part of myself. What happened next will shock you. The line between neighborhood drama and serious crime blurred, and this HOA Karen walked straight into a trap that would change everything. Stay tuned, because the story is just getting started. Before all this happened, the HOA had always been a source of tension in the neighborhood, but nothing like this. The board was run by a handful of people, and Karen was the loudest and most controlling among them. She made it clear she wanted to run everything her way, from how we parked to what flowers we could plant. She was the kind of person who thrived on power and control, and she wasn't afraid to make enemies. I'd clashed with her before over small things, noise complaints, parking spots, but nothing that ever felt dangerous. My vintage Porsche was my pride and joy. I'd spent years restoring it, and it was more than just a car to me. It was a piece of history, a reminder of better times. I kept it locked in the garage, away from prying eyes. So when it vanished, I knew it couldn't be a simple mistake, or a random theft. Someone had to have inside access or at least know the schedule well enough to pull it off without raising alarms. I started talking to neighbors quietly, and that's when the rumors began swirling. People whispered about Karen's shady side deals, secret meetings after HOA board hours, and some kind of underground business that didn't involve community upkeep. No one could quite prove anything, but there was a feeling that something bigger was going on. That's when I reached out to a friend who works in law enforcement. I needed advice, and fast. What started as a missing car turned into an investigation that would expose much more than just a stolen Porsche. As the investigation started, I learned that Karen wasn't just a difficult HOA president, she was involved in something far darker. My friend in law enforcement dug into her background and found that she had ties to a network involved in stolen property sales and fraud. It seemed like the Porsche wasn't the first item to disappear, and it probably wouldn't be the last. Suddenly, the petty neighborhood squabbles took on a new meaning. This was organized crime hidden behind a smile and a clipboard. Meanwhile, the community was divided. Some neighbors stood by Karen, either out of fear or loyalty, refusing to believe she could do something so serious. Others were quietly relieved, sharing stories of small thefts, threats, and intimidation that had gone unreported for years. A few even confessed they'd considered moving out because they didn't feel safe anymore. I realized this wasn't just about one stolen car. It was about a neighborhood under siege by corruption from within. At the same time, Karen kept up appearances, showing up at meetings with her usual confident tone, acting like nothing was wrong. But behind the scenes, things were unraveling. My friend told me the FBI had started watching her closely after some unusual transactions showed up in her financial records. The agency was setting a trap, but they needed solid proof, and that's where I came in. I had to help gather evidence without tipping her off, all while keeping my vintage Porsche and my family safe. The stakes were higher than I ever imagined. As days passed, the pressure kept building. I could feel Karen's eyes on me during every HOA meeting, like she knew I was onto her. My friend warned me to be careful. She wasn't someone to underestimate. The FBI was closing in, but they needed me to play it smart. I started keeping detailed logs, recording conversations when possible, and tracking any suspicious activity around my property. Every phone call, every message from Karen or her associates became a piece of the puzzle. Then, one evening, I noticed something strange. A moving van pulled up to a house a few blocks away, a place rumored to be one of Karen's secret storage spots. I took pictures discreetly and shared them with my friend. The FBI was now planning to raid the location, hoping to find stolen items, including, hopefully, my Porsche. At the same time, Karen's behavior became more erratic. She was missing meetings, sending threatening emails to neighbors, and openly accusing me of trying to ruin the community. The tension in the neighborhood was palpable. People whispered about what might happen next, afraid of the fallout. One night, I received a call from the FBI agent in charge. They had set the final trap, an undercover operation designed to catch Karen red-handed while trying to move the Porsche. The operation was risky, and I was warned to stay out of sight. The moment of truth was coming, and I couldn't help but wonder, would justice finally be served? Or was Karen planning one last move to escape? Just when I thought the FBI's plan was the final move, a new shock came out of nowhere. Days before the undercover operation was set to happen, I got a call from a neighbor I barely knew, someone who rarely spoke up at HOA meetings. She told me she'd found something hidden in the bushes near my garage, a small high-tech tracking device. Someone had been watching me, following my every move. That's when it hit me. Karen's reach was even deeper than we thought. It wasn't just about the stolen Porsche anymore. She'd been using surveillance to intimidate neighbors, control the narrative, and stay one step ahead of anyone trying to expose her. The stakes had suddenly skyrocketed. If she knew about the FBI's investigation, she could slip away before the trap even snapped shut. I shared the news with the agents, and they scrambled to adjust their plan. The FBI ramped up their surveillance, but now they had to move faster than Karen's team. The whole neighborhood felt like it was holding its breath. Some people wanted to stay silent, afraid of what would happen if they spoke out. Others, like me, knew that this was the moment to stand up, not just for my Porsche, but for everyone Karen had hurt. But then another twist hit. A confidential tip reached the FBI suggesting Karen had already moved the car, possibly out of state. The operation would have to be rushed, or we'd lose her for good. The tension was unbearable, and I realized this fight was far from over. The night of the operation was tense beyond words. The FBI moved in quietly around the property rumored to be Karen's stash spot, while I stayed hidden nearby, heart pounding. Just as agents prepared to breach the door, an alert came through. Karen's team was spotted loading a large trailer at a different location miles away. It was a race against time. The agents split up, some heading to the stash house and others pursuing the moving trailer. I followed the updates anxiously, hoping the Porsche was still inside. After a few nail-biting minutes, the FBI intercepted the trailer on the highway. Inside, there it was. My vintage Porsche, along with other stolen items. Karen was caught, red-handed, trying to flee with the goods. But the real shock came when investigators searched Karen's devices. They uncovered not just evidence of theft and fraud, but something far bigger, a network of corruption reaching into city officials and real estate developers. Karen wasn't working alone. She was part of a scheme to manipulate property values and seize control over several neighborhoods. The stolen Porsche was just one piece of a massive puzzle. Karen was arrested, along with multiple accomplices, and faced federal charges that could put her away for decades. My Porsche was returned, restored to its rightful place. The neighborhood began to heal, stronger and more united than before. Yet, as I drove my car back home, A mysterious email popped up in my inbox. A warning from an unknown sender saying, "This isn't over. They're watching." The fight for justice might have won this battle, but the war was far from finished. After everything settled, I took a long look around my neighborhood. The people who once felt powerless were now speaking up, demanding transparency and fairness from any future leadership. The HOA, as it had been, was gone, dissolved after the scandal. New community leaders stepped forward, determined to rebuild trust and keep the neighborhood safe from corruption. It was a fresh start, one rooted in honesty and respect. Getting my vintage Porsche back felt like more than just reclaiming a car. It was a symbol of standing up for what's right, no matter how big the challenge. That experience taught me the importance of vigilance and community support. If something feels off in your neighborhood or HOA, don't ignore it. Document everything, reach out for help, and trust your instincts. The investigation uncovered a web of corruption that went beyond what any of us imagined, but it also showed the power of persistence.